We move away from Snetterton then and move to weekend 4. We're at Thruxton in Andover. This once airfield is the fastest British circuit. It is absolutely mental and we cannot wait to get going. Join us for first practice and there's a special treat as well. We are trackside for today. On Saturday, for the race days on Sunday, it'll be normal coverage. But Josh T is down there for us with a bit of a treat because it's not just one static, well, it is one static camera, but it can zoom in anywhere. Hello, JT, come in. Can you hear me?
Hello. It's very, very windy here, but I'm doing what I can.
You are doing what you can, and this new camera that you've got is absolutely fantastic. Definitely want one myself, and that means when we get to Brands Hatch later on in the year. But we can zoom in, we can go anywhere we like, and we can have full screen pictures as well. And how many of you? What can you actually see down there? What have you got access to?
Okay, so it's massive. I can't see round there, but I can see all around here.
Yeah.
The flag is out, I believe, so...
It is out. Cars are going to be coming past you now. We've opened up the battle screen. There they go. So the cars are out on the circuit. We are getting underway. I'm going to stay up in the comms box. JT is going to be giving you the camera action. It's time to pass over to our commentators with Duncan Vincent and, of course, Alan Hyde trackside as the cars come out on the circuit.
To choose from, like they have at Snetterton and other rounds. It's the hardest of hard tyres here to make sure that they do last, kind of.
Yeah, the drivers, when we have tyre choices like we had at Snetterton, they don't like the hard tyre because obviously it is the slowest tyre.
Yeah.
However, at Thruxton, firstly, they don't have a choice, and secondly, it's a great tyre because it is so durable, and over the course of a full race distance on such an abrasive and fast circuit like Thruxton, it goes the distance. So it's the perfect tyre.
It's what you need, because nothing else would work. I remember a good few years ago watching touring cars from Thruxton when I was back home in Glenrothes on a day off, and it was the Star Wars Lego Honda Civic, the arena car of Tom Chilton. And Tom was incredibly fast. But they were running too much camera on the car, and he lasted 4 laps. He disappeared up at the front. He lasted 4 or 5 laps and then got front left puncture, where everybody else just tailed it back just that little bit to try and be a bit more conservative. It's not really a word that Tom Chilton knows, is it? Although I did hear during the week that he had a bit of a back issue, Alan. I don't know if you picked up on this.
I didn't hear that.
The jungle drums were possibly a bit of a back issue for Tom Chilton, but thankfully he's okay. And there was possibility of another driver being lined up to drive that car if he wasn't okay. But I don't want to say too much more on that over the air. I'll text you, and then you can see if you can find out and be your little
see what I can find
boots
out
on the ground as the cars come through. Now, what we'll probably see here, I would imagine most teams will either go into the pit lane straight away. Yep, Ash Sutton heads straight back into the pit lane and out in an in-lap. And isn't it good to see touring cars back on track at what is effectively their home circuit of Thruxton, the BARC here, as we see the traditional BMW second lap where they will go around and do another lap on tyres to warm them up. Tom Ingram decides to do a second lap as well, and Jake Hill goes into the pit lane. I was going to say the newest winner. Is he the newest winner in the touring cars, Ronan Pearson? I think he is, because Huffy's won before. The newest winner in the touring cars makes his way in to the pit lane in number 14, and I've got to say, and I get to do this is my little proud Scottish moment here. I was so impressed and so happy to see Ronan Pearson get that victory at Brands Hatch. He drove incredibly well. He really did deserve it. What he has put into this and what his family have put into this, along with Accelerate and all his partners, is fabulous, and getting the rewards for that, coming back with that victory at Brands Hatch. And I don't think I'm the only person to say this, but it will be the first of many. More will come for that young man. He's in a good team, he's in a good place.
And also he's at Knockhill, he was an instructor at Knockhill of many years, and also on a touring car weekend he'd be the guy that was out putting banners around the circuit and doing all those kind of things as well. He's a proper fan of touring cars, so not just a race winner, he's a touring car fan.
Exactly. But before he was racing in the JCW Mini Championship, he was one of the guys who'd be parking cars on the hillside, and a little bit like Gordon Shedden, he came along
and
with
Rory
his dad.
Butcher.
And Rory Butcher as well. I mean, and we've all been there and done it, but it's great to see how that's working for him as Tingram goes through. Tingram's looked pretty good this year, I've got to say that. It's good to see him back. I'll tell you another thing I've noticed about Tom Ingram, and I think I've said this to you, and I think I can say this on here, Alan. He looks lean. He looks leaner than I've ever seen him. Yeah. He looks mean, and a lean, mean Tom Ingram is really a fast Tom Ingram.
And I mean, that's not without a huge amount of work, because he likes food.
Well, he liked a biscuit or two.
Yeah, he does.
Me and he both liked a biscuit or two, and he liked a monkey shoulder, and I liked a Glenlivet. Now, for those of you who are not initiated in the malt whisky of Scotland, that's where we were. And we used to have lots of phone calls, and it would last hours because of Glenlivet and monkey shoulder. Other brands of things are available. But there's been a lot of hard work there. And I think a lot of that's come from Tom, but I think a lot of that's been driven by Laura as well behind the scenes. Everybody needs a Laura behind them, driving them these days, Alan.
Right, okay.
Apparently. I've also had a lovely picture sent to me by a certain Laura, who you know very well, of the penguin.
You can see the penguin?
I've just seen the penguin now, so thank you very much. That's from Laura.
How cool.
That'll be Farm Girl, Laura. Thank you very much, Laura. The penguin, it's even got a Lydia ponytail out the back of it, which is pretty cool to see.
It's cool, isn't it?
Yeah, our championship standings for the touring cars, Alan, if I could just quickly say this. The top three are on track altogether, as everybody is. It's Ash Sutton leads the way from Colin Turkington and Tom Ingram. There's only 11 points covering the top three. In fact, 11 points covering the top four, because Jake Hill sits in fourth place, very much there. It's a typical touring car championship that you would expect to see at the start of the year. Nobody really stretching away. There's been an assortment of winners across the board, and that's what we look to see. Josh Cook sits in a very good fifth place, just ahead of Dan Camish. The Moff is in seventh, Aidan Moffat ahead of Tom Chilton, Rob Huff, returning Huffy, and Adam Morgan in 10th place as it stands just now in the championship. But there's so many talking points that we could talk about coming in towards this weekend, as Ronan Pearson goes for a flying lap on hybrid as he crosses the line. And the whole hybrid thing as well, the hybrid energy management system, is something that has come in to touring cars. It's been around for a couple of years now, and I do like, Alan, how you guys, I'm going to say you guys, or Ortoka, Alan Gow and the team behind it, just managed to refine the rules. It came in the first year and we had hybrid, and that was it. Use your hybrid, get on with it. But then it's changed. It's now changed that you get less hybrid and you have to deploy it at a higher speed, and there's gaps between it. And now that's the clever one I picked up on. So there's a minimum 5-second gap between it. So you can't come out the last corner and hold your hybrid towards the line and then straight away start your next lap's hybrid. There's that little time frame where you've got to wait that 5-second or so period. But it's very clever the way it's worked out.
It's always been the same with the BTCC. There are rarely big changes. There are tweaks each year, just to make it more and more competitive. And this, this latest tweak on the use of hybrid, proving how much difference it makes. And the drivers, all you need to do is to look at the smile on a driver's face. At the opening meeting of the year at Donington Park, after Colin Turkington came into Park Fairmay, he had a big, broad smile, the like of which I've not seen on Colin's face for a while. It's because he had a new toy. He's got this hybrid button that lasts, it makes a difference. And actually, when you press the button, it's something that you feel inside the car. You feel yourself in the seat in the car. It makes a big difference. So yeah, they're getting used to this. And as we go through the year, we're working out really which circuits it's going to have a major effect on, and which circuits it doesn't have such an effect on. Will it have an effect at the hyper quick circuit of Thruxton? I'm not sure you need to go any faster here, do you?
No, you know what, Alan? It's one of these circuits that it's very much more a friendly tool for a driver who maybe has a little bit less, because it's not got that hard acceleration.
Yes.
And what it does give you at top speed is maybe a little bit less than it would give you, I don't know, at acceleration. But drivers are clever. Teams are clever. Teams are smart, and I do agree 100% with what you say. That it's always a slight, tiny little change here or there. There was a seismic change, obviously, when we introduced hybrid, but that was like a regulation change, like what we have in Formula One.
That was a big change, because the BTCC has kind of prided itself over the year, and I've watched it happen over the years. It moves with the trends that are happening in the automotive business.
It has to.
Yeah, it has to. So, for example, some years ago, 20 odd years ago, diesel road cars were becoming incredibly popular because diesel engines had become much cleaner than they'd ever been before. So therefore, diesel engines were allowed in, and famously, Seat ran their Cupra in the form of a diesel engine car. it reflected what was happening in automotive, and so too hybrid does exactly the same thing.
I remember the diesels well. The diesel C8s, it was very easy to spot them as well because they had the extra kind of air intake grill right in the middle of the bonnet, just to.
That's right, yeah.
And keeping them cool was one of the things. It wasn't easy to keep them cool, but we saw that the British Touring Car Championship picked up on that very quickly. Sorry to disappear and digress away from free practice 1, which is happening, but we'll bring you up to speed, guys, as it unfolds. But right now we only have 3 people who have put an actual time down, a lot of out and into the pits. But the British Touring Car Championship picked up on the impact of diesels very quickly, as it did in the world of endurance, the WEC Championship, because Audi started doing a bit of that as well. And before you knew it, the touring cars were all over that. And it was quite a thing at the time when, a diesel, who would have thought it? Who would have ever thought it, a diesel out there? But we've now come away. The seismic change was to go to hybrid, and as Alan says, it's just a little bit of massaging that now to make sure the rule. You don't want people running away with it, and you've got to make it difficult for the guys who have got that little advantage. Now, as I said earlier on, these teams are clever. These are the best teams in four-wheel sport in the UK for saloon car racing. That's why they've got the best personnel. They've got the best guys on the computer. You hear all the time Tom Ingram talking about Spenny, which is Spencer, his race engineer. They've been together for a long time. There's guys in the pit lane like Barry Ploughman, who we now see coming away from the team Dynamics. As Dynamics don't have a touring car concern anymore, he's still very much involved in being the technical director for the race team, building Cortinas and Minis and things like that. But Barry Ploughman we see down there running Tom Chilton, which will be an interesting thing. And to have that type of man in your corner gives you an advantage and makes a driver puff their chest out on the way towards a race weekend, because it gives you that little extra spring in your step. There goes the latest winner of the touring cars. Rob Huff goes in towards Allard. An extremely brave corner, Allard, when you go through there and you disappear behind a lovely Thruxton centre, which they've got looking absolutely tip-top this weekend, before you head up over a slight crest of a hill in towards the first of the complex corners, which is Campbell. Then from Campbell you go into Cobb, where I can see him now. Then you go in towards Seagrave, the corner which used to have a nasty dip on the exit of it. And many years ago we saw a bit of an incident with Rob Gravitt setting the banking on fire on the exit of that corner in an RS 500, if I'm not mistaken, Alan. That wasn't just yesterday. It's amazing what sticks in your mind.
Good memory. It's
amazing.
Trackstar RS 500, yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't have that much info. You've got more info than I have.
Well, the car in which Rob Gravitt won the British Touring Car Championship in 1990. I spoke to Rob yesterday because he's supporting his son in his endeavours in Mini Challenge in the JCW category, which we don't have here this weekend. But Rob still very much around, very much involved, and great to have a little catch up yesterday. And Rob was catching up with loads of old friends. He was talking to Louise Goodman over in the Thruxton Centre yesterday. We were over there yesterday. Many of you that follow the BTCC on social media will know that we run something on the Friday of this meeting called Kids in Motorsport, where young Year 5 students, it was a great day out for them, from local schools around Andover and around this Thruxton area, were all treated to. It was an absolute showcase of what we do on a touring car weekend. They got to have a media coaching session with Louise Goodman from ITV. They were taught how to resuscitate a patient by the safety and medical crew. The doctors and paramedics and rescue crews were instructing how to look after a patient. They also got the chance to code and build a Lego racing car and then have a race. They got to come down and meet either the Jake Hill's team, the MB Motorsport team, or Power Max with Aaron Taylor-Smith and with Mikey Doble. And they also got a chat about tyres from Mickey Butler from Goodyear. So it was quite a day out, and we were all based over in the, as you say, in the Thruxton Centre, which is open all day today.
So make sure you go in. We've also got the Jackaroo Cafe across beside me, by the way, and I need to mention them, Alan, because they're so nice. They look after me. I can use the facilities as much as I like, and they're so nice down there. And
while you mentioned the Jackaroo Cafe, parked just in front of that is the Hampshire and Isle of Wight air ambulance little gazebo. And they were quite an addition to our Kids in Motorsport yesterday. They brought along an air ambulance simulator. all built into a purpose-built van. The back of the van pulls out. It becomes a simulator with a proper cockpit, as in the air ambulance, which is based here at Thruxton. And I was finding out all sorts of statistics about the air ambulance. If you're local, you might see the air ambulance coming and going, as I do, on a number of occasions during a week. It can be called out maybe 6 or 7 times a day, and it costs £3,500 every time that helicopter takes over. It is funded purely on donations, and the reason they've built this simulator is to go to events and basically to try and get the amazing operating budget that they need every year to keep the Hampshire Air Ambulance in the sky. So if you are passing by the gazebo this weekend, pop in and say hi to the guys and girls that are running that little gazebo over the course of this weekend. And if you're feeling generous, pop a bit of money in for them, because it is a chosen charity of Kids in Motorsport here at Thruxton, and a very, very worthy cause.
Well, I'll do, Alan. The next time I pop down to the Jackaroo Cafe, I'll pop a Scottish note into that for them, and they'll be able to use that.
They'll ask if they can change it.
Probably. But I have got a couple of English ones. I came prepared, Alan.
Oh, well done.
I get such a hard time from Larry Carter, as you know, the Superbikes for being Scottish. But my money is real, I promise you. And if not, I can do a balance transfer for anybody who'd like it. It's not a problem.
They've got a card machine, Doug.
That's fine. You know, so have I, Alan. So it's quite fine. And I do know that you also have a card machine as well. Right now, we only have a couple of guys who have put an actual lap in. Again, I say 11 cars out of the full 20. And why is that? Because so many are doing a lap and then coming in and out and in and out and in. That seems to be the thing to do. Jake Hill fastest on free practice 1 session, but things don't really start getting spicy until we get to free practice 2, because that's where we start to decide at the end of the free practice 2 how our qualifying will go for the 2 groups, and looking to try and get into that quick 6. It's Hill, Ingram, Chilton, Watson just now up there. Andrew Watson, who is another lovely chap who I haven't actually mentioned, and I should have, because I mentioned all other Speedworks Toyotas. I do apologise for that, Andrew. Adam Morgan, who I have a long time friendship with and a long time affinity with, purely through one of his good mates who used to be involved with Sicily. And I'm not talking about that small country off the boot of Italy. Sicily Motorsport were in the touring cars for quite some time, and they have been around for a long time as a company. And that friend that we had together was none other than his team manager at the time, Norman Burgess, who moved on. And I have to say, when Norman moved on, it was almost the kind of, that was like the splinter that kind of got in between the nail and the finger. And Sicily then, effectively started to, Adam had kids and things started becoming more busy, and ultimately Adam's ended up in West Surrey Racing, and not having to be here, not having to build the awning, not having to set up the hospitality. He's got more time to spend at home working and being with his young family, which ultimately is more important. But yeah, big friend, a lot of time for Adam Morgan and the Morgan family.
So Norman, I was actually quite jealous of Norman Burgess. He got over 700 birthday messages on Facebook this week.
Yeah.
Very popular character.
I thought I was doing well. I had just about 3.
I know.
I was delighted.
So Norman, terribly popular character. Sorry, the radio mic is struggling a bit in various parts of the
I see you.
Pit lane. I'm going to go over to the grassy bit in pit lane, because I think the mic will get better access to the aerials over here. Just to say, I don't know if you've already said it, Duncan, I didn't hear it, but this is Darryl de Leon's first ever chance to go around Thruxton.
Oh no, I didn't see that, Alan.
Yeah, first time here.
And his team boss is a certain Mr. Dave Tyson, who I know from the Superbike paddock, a man who's won many a championship in the British Superbike Championship paddock. So Dave Tyson, keep an eyes on Darryl. It's a bit of a place to come for your first meeting. I was speaking with Barry Horn yesterday from Parker Racing with Stu Parker, and he says, Rory's here this weekend, you need to catch up with Rory. I was like, why is Rory here? And I remember seeing a name called William Paul in the Porsche entry list, and because Rory races classic cars with William Paul, so William's in the Parker car this weekend. And Barry's eyebrows went north. He goes, William chose Thruxton as his first ever round to do in a Porsche.
That's quite a debut, isn't it?
Well, yeah. a debut and a half, Alan. That's what I would say. But there
say.
goes Daryl DeLeon across the line just now in that lovely Duckham's livery. I'm a fan of that because that takes me back to Christian Colby, Mark Webber, Dan Weldon, all these Duckham's Van Diemens back in the day.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's a very emotive livery. When the
time.
Duckham's livery came back, it was in the hands of Dan Camish, wasn't it?
Yes.
He brought the livery back to the total support package at the time, and it was great to see.
I have a car with a rearranged front end coming in here. That could be, let me have a check of that just now. Too far away to actually get a spot on it just now. As he comes in, where's my binoculars? Oh, it's Colin Turkington. Yeah, Colin Turkington. Instead of happening, Alan, are you in the pit lane?
Stop it.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And not a small one either.
It's like something's hit him rather than, or he hit something.
He won't be able to see either.
No, he won't be able to see where he's going. The bonnet's folded up there. Now, there's no other damage I can't see to the front of that, Alan, but I know your boots on the ground in pit lane.
I'm right there.
Turkington comes in.
It is the most bizarre thing. There is no damage at all to the front bodywork other than this concertina bonnet. So
I wonder if one of the pins hasn't been put in or it's popped up and it's maybe folded it with the air pressure trying to lift under it.
I think you're right. It is bizarre because Colin doesn't really have skirmishes with track furniture or other cars. So that is the most bizarre of... No, and Dick Bennett has just shrugged at me in the same way that I've shrugged at him. It's such a bizarre thing to see.
It's not something you see very often, but a bonnet pin can fail. It's one of these things that, like anything else in life, it can fail. It's not been forgotten to be put in, Alan, because he's been out there for a couple of laps, according to my track. Oh, actually, he was on an out lap, so who knows? Let's not go there. We'll let the team fill Alan in what happens. But what they need now, during the week, I saw something on social media when a NASCAR had the same kind of thing. So the NASCAR rolled into its pit box, and one of the mechanics ran at it and jumped and landed on the bonnet to try and squash the bonnet down. He was a fairly sizable chap, Alan, and it worked a treat. Then they came out with the gaffer tape.
The bonnet pin sheared is what happened.
There you go.
And that's why. So Steve Buckler, who's been part of the WSR team forever, just gave it a bit of a push. And although there's a crease in the bonnet, it's back in place now. So
there's not a lot of meat to the bonnet.
No, it's...
There's not a lot of meat on any of these cars, actually.
It's a bizarre thing because the car is absolutely perfect. That was the only thing, and it was quite a buckle in the bonnet, but Steve Buckle sorted it out.
The 20 threw me there. The 20 threw me there because I know Turks normally isn't number 20, but there's a reason why he's number 20 this year, Alan, isn't it? It's the 20, celebrating 20 years inside the British Touring Car Championship for that man. I can see them up and down with the bonnet a few times.
It is.
I knew that WSR, West Surrey Racing, would not put the bonnet pit in, so it had to be a failure of some sort. Plus, from where it happened, Alan, it happened round the back point of the circuit. It didn't happen just leaving pit lane. So
I bet it was a bit of a scary moment for Colin.
Well, imagine not being able to see where you're going as you go to church.
Not very nice. Not very nice at all.
You usually have your eyes closed when you're going round in the Porsche anyway with Mr. Gow, and that's probably the best because we've seen the way he drives quite spiritedly around the circuits when there's an opening and a closing lap. As Tom Chilton crosses the line there on a hybrid boost, using that as he heads towards the line. Tom Chilton currently in third place, P3 in number three in P3, sorry, I should say. And he's a man who's been around for a long time. I'm a Tom Chilton fan. I am a Chile fan. He just
we all are. It's impossible not to be.
I know. I mean, he's so nice. He's so nice.
He is.
See if he could just refine a little bit of that aggression away, just to maybe look after the car a bit more. I think it would come.
He is like he was when he was the youngest ever winner in the BTCC back in that Star Wars livery Honda Civic. But he's like a bouncing Tigger is what he's like.
Brilliant.
He's full of energy.
Well said. Well said. And there's some great social media stuff that Tom Ingram does, and he gets Tom Chilton involved through Bristol Street Motors, and it's almost like it's funny. It really is. Chilton is a lovable guy. Seriously funny. Super aggressive behind the wheel of a car. There's nobody really more aggressive.
Tom has got 4 kids, and he is the least mature of the 5.
Yes, yeah. You feel sorry for his partner, don't you? You really do. Here comes the Moff out of the last corner, chased by Tom Ingram. Now, did you hear earlier on what I said about the livery of this car, Alan? And you can see how it does remind me of the late, great Colin McRae's
Yeah, I can
Ford
see
Focus.
exactly what you mean, yeah.
And I had
Yeah.
a race car that looked pretty much identical to that. I painted a race car with my good friend and Ali Spittle in my own garage, and it looked like that. These cars are all, I don't know if they're painted now. I think they actually vinyl wrap them because it's maybe lighter than paint.
They've got a base colour. And
Yes,
then,
yeah, and then they put a vinyl on top of it. But I do like how the Accelerate cars look. I also love the look of the Napa cars as well. Being a massive NASCAR and American racing drag fan, Napa's a name that I have been, I've grown up with for many years. With the likes of Ron Capps and Ron Hornaday out there in America as well. Here he comes through the chicane and heads towards the pit lane. The man I was speaking about earlier on, that's Adam Morgan. He trundles in there. You know what though, Alan? There's nothing cooler than just a BMW in red, white and blue.
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
Oh, it takes me back to the Schnitzer days.
Just comes up towards the technical check area at the entry end of pit lane, and quick mention I think we should make again to Tom Chilton. I always remember speaking to Tom over the years here at Thruxton. He loves this place.
Yeah.
He loves the challenge of the speed of Church Corner, and you know, when he was a young 18, 19-year-old, he would talk so happily about bouncing over the curbs at Church and maybe getting it onto two wheels as he comes up towards the club chicane. He loves it. He absolutely loves it, and he has such bravery in whatever he's in.
And that's why he loves Thruxton, because he is possibly, like I said, he's one of the most aggressive, but he's probably one of the bravest as well. And bravado comes from the right foot. A huge amount of smoke from Church, which you think, that's never the best thing to have happening, is it? No. Well, it's not, because Scott Sumpton had the mother and father of all spins coming through Church there as he makes his way into the pit lane, Alan. I'm going to say that was a Code Brown moment, because you don't have an off at Church and get away with it. The smoke's still in the air round there, Alan.
Gordon does a very good job of cutting the grass here at Thruxton, but Scott Sumpton has found another little layer that he was able to trim off with the splitter at the front of the car. So Scott Sumpton in for a bit of a clear out of grass. Yeah, that's exactly what he's having done right now.
All the other drivers had to drive through a Days of Thunder smoke screen there, Alan, and there's still smoke down there. They will still smell that rubber smoke as they're grabbing gears heading from Church up through Woodham Hill in towards the club chicane. And it's not the place. There are other points in the circuit that you would want to have a small issue, but Scott will be in there. The driver's door will be open for a few reasons. I want to pass over some information. Another one probably to get some fresh air in that car as Ronan Pearson crosses the line. Now, where's Ronan sitting about just now? Down in 15th place. Work to do there, but free practice one, let's not get too excited. I used to always get this at Knockhill. I would be waxing lyrical about lap times in free practice one, and the little voice inside my ear would be Alan Hyde saying, it's only free practice
It's
one.
only free
and then
practice.
Matt James would say the same thing. I'd be, okay.
They're going through their housekeeping at this point. So they're bedding in brakes, they're scrubbing in tyres, they're doing all these kind of things that they need to do to set up the race weekend, which has been quite difficult this year because we've had pretty bad weather on the Saturday, not at Brands Hatch, but certainly at Donington.
Alan, can I just ask you, the front of Dan Camish's car, has he been grass cutting?
Okay, I'll
Coming
go
down to you just now.
Yeah, I can go down there. So free practice one, housekeeping. Just bear in mind, though, during free practice two, everybody, that it does have a significance for qualifying nowadays because as of this year, with our new format, our quick six format of qualifying, our knockout competition, if you like, to qualify, free practice two does set out the groups. So the odd numbers, those that finish in positions 1, 3, 5, 7, that forms up one group, and the even numbers form up the next group for qualifying. So sometimes you do get a situation, we've already had it this year, that you look at a group and you think, now that's a very, very tasty group. So we're going to lose some top drivers in the very first section of qualifying.
And why is it easier to say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 than it is 1, 3, 5?
I thought I'd test myself.
Why is it easier to do that? Why?
I thought I'd test myself.
Speaking of testing, TSL just going through a system reboot just now, Alan, so I'm going to stand and look out the commentary windows. I did see Ash Sutton having a big moment coming through the club chicane on the previous lap, not this then lap. And I thought I saw Dan Camish coming in with a
good spot of Camish because they're just sweeping the grass away. Not very much.
Enough though.
But enough, so good spot.
And why is that an issue, ladies and gentlemen? Because right down at the front there, the air intake, these cars are so finely balanced that air area in the front will have been put in a wind tunnel. It'll be all designed on CAD, so just the right amount of air gets in there. As soon as you block that, say with some grass or unfortunately maybe a bit of debris, a couple of tear-offs if that was even a thing in this kind of racing, or from a visor, it just makes the water temperature go up that little bit too high. And these cars, you've got to watch what you're doing. Everything as well, also at the front end of these cars now, they've got air intakes for the hybrid cooling. So that's something else that the drivers, when hybrid first came out at Knockhill, we put a whole video together saying, you know, this is how the drivers are going to have to watch. The front bumper is very important to them because it's got the hybrid cooling duct in it. You can't be bashing the front bumpers. Well, the drivers lasted at least 3 minutes in the first race in that, and then just decided that they're just going back to their old typical ways. If it's a bumper, I'll use it if I need to. So, yeah, great shame. Not great shame, just unfortunate Dan, a little off excursion there, picks up some grass, comes back in, and Alan Hyde watches it getting swept away.
I'm just down by Dan Rowbottom's Napa Racing Ford Focus, and it's got quite a tyre scuff on the left front of the car. Not surprisingly, we'll see a few of those cars collecting that over the weekend. He has had a skirmish with those tyre stacks that you were talking about. Nothing too much to worry about. He's just kissed it, but they do need to be careful. They can't be pushing those back this weekend.
No, but that's what you want to do, Alan. That's what you're looking for. You're looking
just to kiss it.
It's almost like your Thruxton stripes. You've got to come away with stripes on either side of that bumper to show that you couldn't have been any closer to that tyre without moving it.
I remember Rob Huff saying after a Macau race, he said, if I come back with wind mirrors, I wasn't trying hard enough.
This is true, 100% true. So we'll keep an eye on that, Alan. We'll keep an eye on people getting their Thruxton stripes and see how many people pick them up this weekend. It's like a badge of honour. You wear them with pride as we see Jake Hill going through. One of the nicest liveries. We have a yellow flag at Allard right now, which is never a place you want a yellow flag to be. It was backed up by one of the flashing yellow boards there. I can't see right now. There's a green flag going in towards Campbell. Yellow flashing light now, and the driver's being very cautious going in there, as you would understand, Alan, because you don't want to go in there attacking that with too much gusto and find a car in the middle of the road. Let me see if I can pick anything up on the fabulous GPS.
Red flag.
Yeah, red flag has now come out. So, unfortunately, a red flag pops out here at Thruxton. I can't see anybody who has gone missing from my vantage point right now, but turn 1, a yellow flag and a green flag at turn, shall we say, 2. So something in that area. But it's Jake Hill who's fastest in free practice 1, as Josh Cook comes back into the pit lane now with those lovely pink wing mirrors, followed by the Duckham's livery of Darryl De Leon. Red flag is out with Jake Hill fastest from Tom Ingram and Adam Morgan third just now, just ahead of Andrew Watson, Tom Chilton. Ash Sutton in 6th place now. Ash has been dancing about through that the club chicane quite merrily, I've got to say. He's been bouncing on the curb on the way in, and he's yes.
It just goes beyond the requirements of physics, really, and he has been exceptional.
Now, Dan
Absolutely
Camish hasn't come round, and on my TSL GPS tracker, I can see Dan has got
Sutton.
Yeah, so we are still waiting on Dan Rowbottom to come through. In fact, now we've now got Camish now moving away again. So let's hope we've not got 2 of the Fords round there, because the last car coming into the pit lane now is that of Adam Morgan. No, sorry, it's Colin Turkington in his BMW.
Okay.
As I look round the back of the circuit, Alan, I can't. That's what I would need. The car's now side on to me as we have a long look, and all I can tell you is yes, it is a Napa Ford. So we'll give you an update as and when you can. If it's okay just now, Alan, I need to switch off just for a second. Coming in just now. I'm going to say, I'm going to come up with a bold statement here. did see him come in with a lot of grass on, so maybe there is a little bit of a story here to that grass. Maybe there is a temperature issue, maybe it's put a sensor into a kind of an overdrive mode and it's shut something down on the car. But up towards the club chicane now comes that number 27 Napa Ford. So Alan, just give me a couple of minutes, we've just got to plug something in the commentary box and I'll come back on air in 2 seconds.
Absolutely fine. So we've got 3 of the 4 Napa racing cars down in pit lane, and here comes Dan Camish. Actually, that didn't look to be too slow an entry into pit lane, and I'll review the car as it comes to a stop down here. Yeah, the car is absolutely fine on the outside, so that maybe is good news. I didn't get to see the front of the car, so I will, but as soon as Dan is back, we've got a green flag in pit lane. Car's being pulled back into pit lane.
Place you want to go missing, that's for sure, but if it's only just some sort of slight technical issue, it's come back under its own steam, so there's a good thing there. If there was an oil pressure warning, or if it was not running right, or if it's a hybrid issue, the car would be shut down and Dan wouldn't drive it back. He's a seasoned pro, he knows exactly what to do. He's a race winner in this championship. So as we can see the car in the pit lane just now, all other cars starting to make their way out. His teammate goes past him. I think that's the Moff going down as well. We've got Nick Halstead and Rob Huff, the only 2 other cars in pit lane just now, as we look and see a flurry, a swarm, a group, a gang of Napa people around that number 27 car. There doesn't, Alan, thankfully seem to be too much in the way of panic, which is something we don't see. It will all be done, unfortunately, as it always is, through a laptop and through communication with the driver and the radio. But that's something that is going to have to be fixed for Dan Camish. Dan, who came and had a fabulous year, remember, when he was a fabulous couple of years, actually, was he not, with when he was in the Halfords Team Dynamics FK8 Honda. We saw him get pole position and race wins, and really was a great addition to that squad.
Where with Dan Camish's car, they're investigating a throttle problem. So no problem at all with the car, just the remnants of grass from a little bit earlier on, but yeah, the car just stopped apparently.
Makes you think that it was possibly coming round on tick over there, because it wasn't going fast at all. If it's coming round on tick over, I
think you're right.
Throttle position sensor.
Laptop's being plugged in now.
There we go. That's what you need, Alan. You know, just give me one of those little solderless nipples in the throttle cable, Alan, and just give it a little pull, and that'll be fine. No such thing as a throttle cable in any of these cars.
No.
As they make their way onto the remainder of the session. 2 minutes 40 seconds of the session to go. Camish has got 8th fastest in this free practice 1. It's not a disaster. As Alan Hyde did point out, free practice 2 is the more important of the 2 sessions, because that's the one that gives us the 2 groups which will form up the basis of qualifying. The odd numbers go into one qualifying session, and the even finisher numbers go into the second qualifying session, and from that we get the quick 6 who will come away, which will be quite an interesting thing around Thruxton, because when the touring car drivers put it all on the line, it really is all on the line round here. Now, I spoke earlier on a little bit about Ash Sutton, who was using the curbs to change direction. His teammate Dan Rowbottom as well, doing the exact same thing. They take a whole hunk of first curb coming into the club chicane, and it looks nervy, because they're having to try and change the car on the third bounce, change direction, rotate the car, but they've got a big tyre barrier staring at them, coming towards them, Alan. So to get that absolutely spot on for however many laps the race will be, 16 laps, will be quite some feat, but to do it in qualifying will be even more impressive if they can do that, because that's something that will be important for Thruxton here. You don't really want to be, you want to be in the first couple of rows of the grid here. And you think, but there's lots of chances to overtake, Duncan. Yes, there is, but there's also a lot of chance to get caught up in something at the complex on the first lap, which isn't your doing. We've seen that for many, many years. The entry in towards Campbell, the first part of it, narrows down from great speed. All it takes is one person to make a mistake at the back, and the pinball effect happens. So you want to really be at the front of that away if you can. I have a flash in my memory of the two Williams-Renaults having a moment going in there and taking each other out. And, you know, one of these things, it does happen. It can happen. So you want to try and be at the front. And that's where these guys do excel at the front. But you've got to say Sutton, with the lesser of the hybrid development or deployment this weekend, as he has had all year, he has a big moment through the chicane. Oh, and he goes the wrong side of the tyres. So there you go. He's tried to push the limit as much as he can. And he's just found out that was too much.
Who was that, Ash?
Ash Sutton, yes. That was a big escape road there. He had less than half a second to decide that he's not making the corner, and he had to steer. He went between the actual tyre wall and the tyre barrier across the grass.
I say this often, Duncan. I'm going to say it again. I remember very, very clearly on the Friday of a British Grand Prix weekend, Michael Schumacher usually had an off at some stage. It was the last one he'd have of the weekend. It was finding those limits and finding it on the Friday.
Well, that's what you've got to do, and that's what the top guys do. You know, we've seen a few guys have moments out there. We've seen guys being off the road, but I'm liking the fact that Ash didn't come straight in the pits. He decided, I'm going straight on for another lap. Sam Osborne crosses the line. Remember, we saw Sam have a fairly sizable shunt at the top of Craner Curves, unfortunately, when he was helped off at Donington in that rather drizzly weekend that you had at Donington, I think. So one good way of putting it. Drizzly. Yeah. 5 hours of interviewing people and filling until we got racing underway at 2 o'clock. Did you interview absolutely everybody in the circuit that day, not just drivers?
I picked really good people that were going to talk to me. So I asked Addison one question. 25 minutes later, we got to question 2.
Brilliant.
So he was perfect.
Yeah, that's exactly what you need in those days. Yeah, but it was. I'm sorry. I was lying in my bed last night thinking they've had a soggy Snetterton, they've had a heat wave at Brands Hatch, and they had a drizzly Donington. I wonder how Alan will react to that one. So you reacted exactly how I expected you to have reacted, Alan. Yeah. Checker flag flies here for free practice 1, Alan, and there has been no change at the top of the times, but Aaron Taylor-Smith has got himself into P3 overall.
That's good work.
Very good work, especially for the independent driver. He's quite a bit ahead of Mikey Doble, the next independent, who comes in 11th. So good to see that. But Hill, Ingram, Taylor-Smith, Morgan, Watson, your top 5. And the drama in that session, well, we did see Dan Camish having a bit of an off, coming back in with a lot of grass. We then brought out a red flag when there was a throttle issue with that car, which had been pushed back through the garage, so they didn't get that back out onto track, Alan. We saw Scott Sumpton having a huge spin at the exit of Church, so much so that the tyre smoke hung in the air for some 3 or 4 laps. And the marshals down there in the exit of Church would have had a face full of that happening as well. And then Ash Sutton decided to just push the envelope that little bit more every lap through the club chicane, where I was trying to describe how he was coming through, hitting the curb and bouncing the car to change direction as it would go past the middle point and a little bit of a slide. He then pushed it a little bit too far. Across the grass he went and carried on. As all the drivers now start to come in, and they will have to go through the way area here, I believe, the way bridge at the entrance. And Alan, are you still in pit lane, actually, Alan?
I'm still in pit lane, yeah.
So talk us and tell us exactly why Toca Technical is down there and what those guys do. Because we all see it in the television and they give a quick highlight, but why? Why does it happen?
There'll be 2 checks that take place directly after qualifying, when certain cars are pulled in, and after racing when certain cars are pulled in. Namely, it will be the top ones and some that are picked at random as well. And the 2 basic checks that go on in Parc Fermé, well, there are 3 actually. The ride height, so that's when you see the little roller going to be pushed on the end of a long handle underneath the front of the car. It needs clear access to the underside of the car to get under the splitter at the front. It is then rolled onto 4 weigh pads, 1 under each tyre, and the car and driver are weighed. And the second thing, the car has to fire up and pull up to its spot in Parc Fermé. So they're the 3 things that are checked, really. It has to fire up on its own. So they're the 3 things that are checked. More in-depth scrutineering can take place at any point over the course of a weekend, but they're the technical checks that happen at the entry end of pit lane, and they're happening now. So one of our Toca Technical team, Phil, is currently going underneath the front of the car with the roller. It's that roller that, thinking back to those that have fallen foul of the roller,
the dreaded clunk.
Yeah, the clunk as you try to get it. I was thinking of Tom Ingram at Knock Hill
Ronan Pearson at Donington.
Ronan Pearson at Donington when he would have been on the podium. They know what's happened. It tends to happen when they go from a dry setup to a wet setup at the last minute.
There's also little things the drivers can do to help that when they come into the weighbridge, by not jumping on the brake pedal, by not trying to be moving in the car, by almost having, if they can, a tiny little bit of steering lock on. There's little things the drivers can do. They maybe get told to have their wheels straight, but you know what a driver's like, Alan. They'll try absolutely anything, but I'd imagine, I've had it myself, and I'm pretty sure these guys they'll hold their breath as that roller goes under.
I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure. And it doesn't take long to find out, because it's really obvious. It's a very simple test, isn't it? It's the perfect width circumference roller that goes underneath, and if it doesn't fit, it's too low. It's very, very simple. So just going through those checks now, the reigning champion, Ash Sutton, fires up the Ford Focus. He leaves the technical check area. Car is down pit lane now. Chris Smiley is next, and Darrell DeLeon is next.
I feel bad I didn't speak about Chris Smiley, actually. My good friend of mine who started his racing career in cars, anyway, in the Scottish Mini Cooper Cup. And Chris going on to great things in touring cars, been away for a couple of years but has come back. I forgot that. I should have mentioned Chris Smiley, a fast young man who is 100% committed to this from Northern Ireland. And we've got a great amount of drivers here, but for the size of a country, Northern Ireland, they create so many good sportsmen, whether it's two wheels or four wheels, Alan.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, you know a lot about that now.
Yes, I do.
I mean, likewise with Scotland and England, but it's great to see it's a multicultural, lots of different countries involved in the driver's style of this. There's a few of the cars at the back get pushed in. Now you're thinking, why are they getting pushed in, and what's that in the front of them? Well, the two Evans Halshaw cars at the back of Mickey Doble and Aaron Taylor-Smith, they have just got a blower in the front just to make sure that there's cool air going through the necessary cooling systems. Jordan, thank you very much for giving me internet in the commentary box. Thank you very much. I got excited there, Alan. I actually threw my hands up in there and punched the roof, so that wasn't the best thing.
Jordan and everyone here at Thruxton work very, very hard, and they have to turn their hand to all sorts of things over the course of a big race weekend like this. So.
Absolutely. What an opening session then, and thanks to JT as well for giving us trackside pictures. His laptop died. He's got two though, so don't worry, he'll be fine. He'll be on his phone for practice 2 though, trackside, and then back on the big camera ahead of qualifying. Practice 2 coming your way at 12 o'clock then. That's going to be the big one. Hill though fastest in free practice 1 here from Thruxton. We'll see you later for all the action. Bye bye.